Our first topic for the night is Batman. Around 2001, Whedon was hired as a writer for Darren Aronofsky and Frank Miller's Batman Year One after the Wachowskis script was rejected by Warner Brothers. It would have been written by Joss, possibly directed by him as well. Whedon's take portrayed an orphaned Bruce Wayne as a morbid, death-obsessed child whose grief was overcome when he protected a girl from being bullied in an alley similar to where his parents were murdered. A scene that makes Joss well up thinking about, to this day, says Whedon. He's like this tiny 12-year-old who's about to get the shit kicked out of him, and then it cuts to Wayne Manor, and Alfred is running like something terrible has happened, and he finds Bruce and he's back from the fight, and he's completely fine, and Bruce is like, I stopped them. I can stop them. That was the moment for me when he goes, oh, wait a minute, I can actually do something about this. The moment he gets his purpose instead of just sort of being overwhelmed by the grief of his parents' death. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was to pick a director that I think is perfect for a Batman movie, especially working from Frank Miller's Batman Year One, it would be Darren Aronofsky. He would create a Batman film that was absolutely insane in just the right kind of way. And looking at that quote, Whedon's writing with Aronofsky's directing, or like Aronofsky's outline with Whedon writing and directing, I think that's something I really need in my life. Like, do we know if that script ever saw the light of day? Can we dig that up somewhere? Because I need to read that.
I have never seen the script. I know that nobody in 2001 was ready for Darren Aronofsky's vision of Batman, even if it was Year One. If you've watched anything else by Darren, it's incredibly bizarre in a good way. I love Darren Aronofsky's stuff, but in the early 2000s, the superhero movies we weren't doing the gritty thing yet. Everything was still pretty bright, and between Aronofsky's quirks, which I also think probably him and Joss clashed. He clashed with the studio.
Yeah, I actually have a hard time seeing Aronofsky and Whedon's sensibilities connecting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to see a Darren Aronofsky villain who drills holes in his own head,
I'm over the Joker for the most part, but I'd watch Darren Aronofsky's take.
The Whedon script featured a new Hannibal Lecter-esque villain. In my version, there was actually a new villain. It wasn't one of the classics, which is probably why they didn't use it. It was more of a Hannibal Lecter type. He was someone already in Arkham that Bruce went and sort of studied with. It was a whole thing. I get very emotional about it. I still love the story. Maybe I'll get to do it as a comic one day. That's a quote from Gizmondo.com. I think this does tie in quite well to the conversation we were just having, in that I think by this stage a lot of people are a little bit tired of a lot of the Batman villains, Joker especially, but also I've seen about 6 versions of Ra's al Ghul now, and they've all been pretty terrible. So do you think it was a good idea for Joss to create his own sort of Hannibal Lecter-esque gentleman psychopath villain, or do you think he would have been better off following our idea and, say, adapting someone like the Riddler?
I personally don't have an issue with him creating a villain. I think this sounds way too much like Silence of the Lambs, which would with Hannibal Lecter, but I don't maybe understand Bruce doing a whole tete-a-tete with somebody in Arkham. And we know Joss can be derivative. I've been watching back through Buffy, which I do yearly, and I just finished season 4, and we're on the Joss was into the Matrix part of the show.
to cut him a little bit of slack, everyone was into the Matrix around then. We can forgive him. It's a great film.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, just my personal thought on that is he would have needed to divorce himself a lot from Silence of the Lambs, because A, it was super successful, and B, we just you don't want to be too derivative with a new villain. The new villain would really have to be something. If you're going to use one, he needs to be super original.